Well, Steve, guess who we've got on the line? The man who is celebrating another Guineas winner. 8 years after Dawn Approach won the race, he's celebrating success with a son of Dawn Approach. It's Jim Bolger. Jim, good morning. How are you? How is Poetic Flare?
Good morning, Racy. Good morning, Stephen. He's very well. He's home and he's none the worse of his experience. So we hope it'll be onwards and upwards from here.
Can you just give us an idea of what it was like watching him go through the race, Jim, and how you felt as the race unfolded?
Well, I was a little concerned that he grabbed his bridle coming out of the stalls, that would be most unusual now for him because he's quite laid back. So whatever the reason was, Kevin said he got him into a rhythm after about a furlong and a half. And he didn't feel that he was taking too much out of himself, even though he was throwing the head around a little bit. But he settled nicely then after that. And I always felt we were in with a good chance. And when they really got down to work, I didn't really know how that might pan out because he was, excuse me, he was never asked a question like that before, so it was all very new to him, but he responded very gamely, and we got the verdict at the line. I wasn't sure when they'd gone over the line, especially when I heard the commentator call the other horse. I wasn't sure that we had won. I didn't think we'd been beaten either, so I probably would have settled for a dead heat at that stage, but it was nice to hear the verdict.
And Jim, watching the way the horse put his head down and tried was wonderful to see. You know the family, of course. I mean, this is when we talk about horses bred in the purple. This is a horse bred in the purple and white of the colours, of the Bolger colours. I mean, he is a horse that has obviously Dawn Approach, but the downside you know extremely well. So perhaps you could just expand a little bit on what I spoke to Kevin yesterday about and pedigree-wise, and Kevin seemed to think, no need to go beyond a mile. What are you thinking about the future for him and what potentially he could achieve in terms of the distances?
Yeah, well, we'll be staying at a mile for the moment anyway, and I don't see any great need to go upwards. So I think I very much be regarding him as a miler. I'm not saying that he wouldn't get a mile and a quarter, especially maybe next year, but I would think for the foreseeable future anyway that he'd be staying at a mile.
And what's the satisfaction like for you, Jim? I mean, obviously this is something you've done before, bred top-class horses, bred classic winners, but to do it again with Poetic Flare, what does this mean to you?
Well, it's a mixture of satisfaction and a certain amount of economic relief as well.
Fair enough.
The way we run the business here, it's sort of very much tilting at windmills. I mean, the opposition in those races are playing with their beer money, and I'm playing with whatever I can get to compete with them, and I can tell you that it's not easy, but I'm not looking for sympathy in that regard. It's the cutthroat sport of horse racing at the highest level, and I intend to try to compete there as long as I can. I don't know how long it will go on for. But I view it from year to year anyway, and at the end of each year, well, I say to myself, well, we're still here, we'll give it a go for another year. But that's sort of how precarious it is, that if I can't come up with a good horse every few years, it's very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's extremely difficult. So that's why it's an equal measure of great satisfaction and joy and delight for my family and my staff, but it's also relief that I'm going to be able to hang in there for another year or so.
Extraordinary to hear you say that. So a lot of people would have expected perhaps the second part of that sentence not be an issue, but it is revealing, Jim. So thank you for that honesty. I'd like to just focus on Dawn Approach for just a second, because the brutal commercial world of the bloodstock industry doesn't sometimes allow patience for young stallions, and that seemed to be the case with Dawn Approach. But you're obviously backing him and not losing any faith.
Well, I've been reckless in the past, so one more time mightn't make too much difference. But we had the horse here, and he ticked all the boxes, and I expected him to make a stallion. Now, I know it's not quite as simple as that, but we got some terrific encouragement in the early days. We had a couple of hard luck stories with potentially what were very, very good horses, and for one reason or another, they didn't get to show their true ability. But I certainly hadn't lost faith with him, and I kept on using him and intend to do so this year and hopefully next year as well.
What is your view, Jim, about how quick we are or the racing industry is to judge a young stallion and potentially lose a stallion that might need a bit more time to establish and develop their influence on the pedigree? Do you think it is too brutal?
Well, the whole commercial side of the business, the whole commercial side of the business is. Well, it's about 75% commercial, and the other 25% is brought there by people who wish to breed racehorses and ignore what's happening in the commercial world. Now, I know it's not possible always to completely ignore what's happening in the commercial world, because if you have a really good horse, he has to have something to his pedigree that will recommend him to potential buyers. But there's an awful lot of an overemphasis on fashion and popularity and that sort of thing. And whatever the in-horse or in-horses is or are for at any particular time, they're the ones that they all want to go for, and they all end up chasing the same progeny of the same half-dozen stallions. But fortunately, the whole game is not as simple as that, and good horses can crop up from other sources as well. Witness the winner of the Kentucky Derby last night.
Yes.
Bought for £1,000 with everybody looking on. So I think that's another example of people backing their own judgment and not being afraid to put it out there and go for a big one with a horse that only costs $1,000.
Indeed. Jim, if I could ask you about Max Sweeney as well, son of New Approach, another one of your horses, your Derby winner, and what the future holds for Max Sweeney, the winner of the Vertin Futurity at Doncaster last year.
Yes, well, it's all down to how the Poetic Flare comes out of his race. I'm thinking at the moment that he'll probably go for the French Guineas, in which case Max Sweeney will go for the Derrinstown at Leopardstown, and if all goes well there, then we'll probably go back for the Irish Guineas at the Curragh. Well, it would be a toss-up then between him and Poetic Flare, but again, I wouldn't run the two of them. And then go on for the Derby then with Max Sweeney, all going well.
Well, fingers crossed for that project. And Jim, the last thing I'm going to ask you about is a man who, of course, you know better than most, but Kevin Manning continues to hold his own in the elite company of horse racing. Just your thoughts on his achievements at the age of 54.
Well, his achievements are massive, and at his age. Well, he's always minded himself very well. You know, he eats well, and he keeps himself fit all year round, and that's a big help. And he doesn't overwork. Like, you won't find him out for him very much during the winter time. He does get a break as well, and he's able to recharge his batteries, and he has plenty of interests outside of racing, and I think that's a huge help to him as well. And he's got good family support, and that's a huge help. So I can see him going on for probably as long as he wishes. So and he'll be my stable jockey as long as he wants the job.
And we hope you carry on for as long as you wish as well, Jim. Fascinating.
Well, you know what I said about me now. It's year to year, it depends on how we're getting on. So that's exactly how it is.
Well, you're certainly getting on well at the moment, Jim. Thank you very much for chatting to us today. Very well done with Poetic Flare. And we look forward to seeing you over here at some point this season.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye for now.